Chapter 2, Scene 4.
The scene is many years past, set in the reign of King Gaudry, before his death, before his brother's ascent, before vanity pushed for war. The day is strangely cold for August. Rain falls in sheets that threaten to drown the world. Horses stamp in slurry and spatter mud upon riders' legs. Raindrops tinkle on the bronze and iron caps of the riders and saturate their gambeson, making it heavy as steel. Crimson streams run here and there in the watery channels that fill the muddy road. Men and women without hope kneel in water and blood. Nearly 400 souls. Gaudry stands in the stirrups of his charger and surveys the huddled mass covered in dung and filth. His soldiers patrol the edges. Some jeer, others ride in sullen, miserable silence. Above the field, 400 forms of Ingway hang and wait, their wings gently flapping through the raindrops. Gaudry's visor is lifted. He wears green brigandine embroidered with a dragon and the only close-faced helm on the field. His eyes are ringed with dark circles. He has not slept in 3 days, and his thoughts dwell on his lost wife and the babe now lying under the care of nurses. Beside the king, his brother Torabin and the captain of his castle guard Asher sit in their saddles. Torabin's forehead bleeds.
This is all of them?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Who leads here? Stand. Speak. Shall I have Lord Torabin kill a man at random? Name yourselves.
My hammer's getting real heavy. Might have to drop it somewhere.
Slowly, 4 men struggle upright in the mud. They stand, 2 of them bloodied, all exhausted, swaying in the hard rain.
I called him up.
Draft, Your Majesty. A Turner.
And the rest of you?
The men eye each other hesitantly, and then speak one at a time, hesitating, faltering. None have ever addressed a king. None have ever faced execution. None expect to see the sun again. They expect to die. The hovering forms of Ingway expect the same.
We met in my barn to plan.
I believe his name is Mathis, a farmer. I guess you'd call me a rabble-rouser, wouldn't you? Leastwise, I spoke a lot. That's Dawson, a priest. I believe he serves justice.
There's an irony.
For his sake, you should find a different altar today.
The last to speak shows none of his companions' dread. He speaks readily, with hatred.
I reckon I supplied some weapons. Well, tools, really. But a miner's more a bludgeon, a fancy guard. Same as a warhammer. Hey?
Yorian, a blacksmith. His loss is unfortunate.
I'm tired.
We can handle this, Your Majesty. Go back to your daughter.
No. Thank you, Captain. These are my people.
Asher's right. Just turn around. We can do the necessaries. These aren't your people anymore.
They're always mine.
Gaudry dismounts, stumbling as he drops into the muddy slurry.
Careful, brother. You all right?
You have chosen a poor time to lodge this madness. You find me on a day when my soul is dark, and I have little mercy.
We all know what's coming, Your Majesty.
Just a word. Just a word, and the blood, and the mess, and it's over. No more. Just an end. They'll never try again. Just a word.
Your Majesty.
What's he doing, Ash? What's he after?
Your queen is dead! She died 2 nights ago, giving birth to your princess. My wife is dead! And you chose this day to rebel. The whole of our realm is gripped in famine. Blight, men are starved, eating rats and dogs.
Right enough. We're hungry. You got food in that granary. Food grown on our lands. Food what ought to be ours.
Hungry? Aren't we all?
Your Majesty, don't indulge them.
We are all hungry, Urian. And to fill your bellies, you would rob food from the mouths of your fellows. Our supplies are rationed. There is only so much. Asha, how many soldiers were lost in the granary?
10.
Were they married?
I don't know. Most of them, perhaps.
Bring me the wives of all who were married. The mothers of those who were not.
This is no place for women.
I did not ask.
Of course, Your Majesty. I'm sorry. Right away.
10 good men died today at your hands. Far more of you died as well. And for what? To sack a granary that's nearly empty. To rob the last meals of others as destitute as yourselves. Darson, what justice was this? What justice is left to me now?
We all know what's coming.
Why delay, brother?
There are oak trees across the road, Torabin. Have some men start hanging nooses.
You there, Dagon. Grab your lads. You heard the king.
The hovering forms of Ingway drift closer. No human choice could save these men. Their fates are sealed. Rebels in a time of famine. Dissenters who could have obliterated a kingdom, who almost have. No man would spare them, least of all a king gripped fast by agony and grief, who can scarcely stand for the pounding in his skull, the exhaustion that has crept into his bones and nestles in his marrow. Gaudry stands in silence and watches the doomed for many minutes. He feels no pity, no mercy. He feels little at all, save cold. His back is to the distant oaks where Torabin and Dagon are tying and stringing nooses, 2 or 3 to a bough. His subjects whimper before him, watching their deaths being knotted in the rain. Eventually, all 400 nooses are hung.
Lieutenant Dagon, lead these men to their ropes. Do not hoist them. Yet.
It is a long process, and ugly. 2 men attempt to bolt. In the mud, they scarcely make it a few steps before they are run down.
Fool.
The rain has slowed by the time all 400 men are fitted with their hempen collars. Asher returns, driving a cart with 10 women in its bed, all dressed plainly and poorly, of ages ranging from 18 to 60.
Ladies, let me assist you.
The king dismounts and helps the women down, embracing each in turn as they step onto the ground. To each he whispers,
I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I shall lead each woman to a prisoner. Any prisoner.
Come, right this way. Their hands are bound, no fear.
What are you at, Gaudry?
Do not question me today, brother. I have no strength for explanation.
Fair enough. It's a hard day for all.
The women tremble, confused and afraid, still in shock with grief.
Ladies, the men before you all had a part in your husbands' deaths. Some are evil, some are desperate, some led astray. All are guilty. Each of you has lost a soul to them, and so to each of you, I give a soul. Choose whether the man before you should be hanged or spared. Your wishes will be followed, no matter what.
Your Majesty, if these men live...
I've spoken. Lady, I wasn't even at the granary. I was in the square. Please.
I didn't kill no one!
I wasn't supposed to. I've got a little boy. He's 4.
4 of the 10 men hang.
Asher, lead these women home. Give them double their morning gold.
Yes, Your Majesty.
In the stillness, 4 forms of Ingway flit down from the crowded skies above and take the freshly slain by their ghostly hands.
Come away. You need not see what happens next.
Gaudry approaches a trembling boy, whose noose adorns him like a first beard. The king places a hand behind the youth's head and tilts it back until their eyes meet. His grip is hard, his eyes wrathful. He wants nothing more than to be quit of all he sees before him, to give one order and have done. He wants to return to his chambers, to sit with his daughter, to mourn his wife. Let the kingdom rule itself.
Why?
I was hungry, Your Majesty.
Was your hunger worth the lives of better men?
No, Lord.
The youth lowers his head in shame, and Gaudry drags back on his hair, forcing him to lock eyes. Then Gaudry lowers his own head and kisses the youth upon his brow. It is a cold kiss, symbolic, affectionless, but it is a kiss.
I forgive you.
A gasp rises from the prisoners close enough to hear. Soldiers startle.
By the mother and void, and all her after.
One at a time, man by man, each rebel receives his proper attention as Gaudry strives down the makeshift rows and columns. To each man, he gives 1 kiss and 3 soft words.
I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you.
The reactions vary. Some weep. Some collapse until their nooses halt them and they must draw themselves upright to breathe. Others stare in sullen hate. Their pardons are salt poured in fresh wounds. One man, Mathis, stares in awe upon the king and dares to speak.
Your Majesty?
Gaudry's eyes smoulder, and he pulls back his gauntleted hand to strike.
I warn you, sir. I am in no mood to be addressed. I stand upon a knife's edge, and your death lies on either side. Mercy does not come easily. Not today.
I see that, Your Majesty.
Then tuck your tongue behind your teeth and thank whatever god you worship for your life. Or else, if you cannot manage silence, bite off your tongue, for it is better to live a mute than to die in speech.
I am sorry, Your Majesty. I am sorry for...
Save your apologies for the dead.
Mathis's eyes fill with honest tears. He is not a man meant for uprisings.
You have given me my life, and I pledge whatever remains of it to you. I pray that God someday I can repay you.
For one moment, Gaudry's voice softens. His rage lessens just enough to allow a single sentence.
Live in peace, my subject.
As Gaudry continues down the lines, Mathis sits and stares at the soaking ground beneath his knees. He marvels at the movement of water droplets, at the texture of the earth beneath him, at the numbness permeating his legs. He is alive. He will never forget this moment, or the golden-haired god who has given it to him. He will never again forget whose subject he is. He is Gaudry's, flesh and bone and soul.
Your Majesty, and you've saved me for the very last. Shall I take my kiss and be on my way?
Urian, you are a skilled man. Many of my soldiers' weapons were formed upon your anvil. Asher would have me spare you.
Nay, the captain's a practical man.
You, I do not forgive.
Wait! No!
Blood spatters the king's brigandine. His golden hair stains.
The rest of you know this. My mercy is not weakness. Go.
Urian, are you ready?
Ready? No one's ready, you bloody vulture! That damn pompous. Why should I lived? I'm valuable. I'm important.
All life is valuable. Now come. Your reward awaits.
May you die cold and alone, King of Dunhild. May you die far from the arms and voices of any you love. And may Ingway take you to the darkest hells after.
Unlikely.
Ingway's many forms hover uncertainly above the scene below. They have no one to reap, no purpose, no reason to stay. One by one they flit to varied shadows and return to their wanted home. One, however, remains and watches as the formerly condemned scramble away from the field of vacant nooses, casting terrified glances over their shoulders at every step, watching the grim and silent soldiers upon their stamping horses. The god Luck kneels upon the muddy road leading to the city. He is elven in appearance, graceful and lithe, dressed in crimson silks slowly staining from the mud. He strokes his beardless chin with satin-gloved hands and stares at his many dice. Ingway lands beside him and folds his dark wings.
How lie the dice, brother?
Look for yourself.
Every one?
Every die, painted with your ugly face. Luck did these men no favors.
I never saw this thread.
You? You missed the future?
There were 1,000 ways this day might have gone. 10,000 more. It all depends how finely you split the strands. But these men always died. No man could forgive them.
And yet?
Luck lazily waves his hand at the distant running men.
I have not made a mistake like this in centuries.
Even death has his off days.
I should have waited until every last choice had expired. But I came early. Surely I would be needed.
I would call these men the luckiest souls alive. But, see the dice? Luck had no part.
Gaudry remains nearby upon the road. He is nearly alone, his soldiers scattered far off, eyes upon the rebels now fading into wood and field. The king looks tired, far older than his years. He stoops and pats the head of Urian, where it lies befouled.
I do forgive you.
The king slumps down, attempting to squat, and instead falling into the mud. He hurls away his bloodied sword and drops his head into his hands, his hair hanging around his face like a curtain of mottled gold and brown and red. He weeps.
Emilia, don't. I can't.
What kind of man?
A fine kind in my book, brother. Enough. I'm off. There's a game of court going on in Australia, and the players have wagered their eyes. Care to join?
You may well meet another me there. It is a dangerous moment, but I wish to stay a little longer.
Oi, Zephyr.
Air pools before the crimson god and condenses, becoming the form of a lithe and beautiful horse, barely visible. Luck leaps upon its back. Ingway stands upon the road. The rain has slowed, but still falls. The king remains seated, his soldiers unwilling to approach, finding every reason not to see their weeping king, every reason to look away. Ingway approaches and unfurls his wings. He spreads them above Gaudry and makes himself just real enough to block the rain. It runs through his pinions and dribbles to every side.
Weep, good king, and remember. Remember warm days in summer. Remember her smile. Remember cold nights in winter made warm. Weep for something good.
Brother, there's no shame here for a man. This isn't fit for a king. Come on. Can't look weak now. Let's get you back to the castle. My Viola's watching the babes. A little Letitia will be hollering for her father.
Farewell for now, good king.
The Fall of Ingway, Chapter 2. Gods and Kings at Home.